Well, the graffiti on that wall in Craigavon talked of a Sinn Féin sellout. There were riots there yesterday as police arrested Republican suspects. So, do the dissidents enjoy community support? And how can they be defeated? With me, our Upper Ban MP, David Simpson of the DUP, and Sinn Féin MLA for the area, John O'Dowd. Thanks for joining us. John O'Dowd, it is your area in particular, the Drumbeg estate there. We saw the scenes of rioting. How much support do these people have?
Well, firstly, let me put on the record, I'm deeply proud to represent the people of Drumbeg. I have been speaking to many of them over this last number of days, and what Sinn Féin has been doing is giving public expression to their views, and we've been stepping forward to give voice to what they are saying. They want an end to this as well. They want to be able to get on with their lives. They want to have a normal life, not only for themselves but for their children and future generations. Just at the edge of the Drumbeg estate, there's new pensioners' bungalows being built, which is the third generation of the people who moved to Craigavon, settling their lives down and wanting to remain in Craigavon. And I think the image of Craigavon in previous times has perhaps been poor, but it is a good community, it's a good place to live, and the people of Drumbeg and Meadowbrook deserve a chance to get on with their lives.
But have you lost support or even control when we see people putting this graffiti on the walls and
Unfortunately, we're not seeking control. We're not interested in control. We go to the people and we put our position to them and we ask them to vote for us. Have we lost support? I don't believe so. Some of the people involved in the activities around these organisations were never with us. Some may have been in the past, and they have went away. And I'm glad they've went away.
Well, yeah, but how do you feel about that? We've seen prominent Republicans being arrested. We've seen some of them maybe previously connected with Sinn Féin. How do you feel when you see former colleagues, perhaps even in your own party now, perhaps involved or suspected of being involved in some of these activities?
I'm not going to comment on any arrest. I'm not going to become involved in trial by media. I've seen some of the morning newspapers and I have to say the coverage is disgraceful. Everyone has a right to due process. Everyone has a right to go through the judicial system without prejudice, so I'm not going to comment on that. People have their own choices to make, have their own political choices to make. Sinn Féin has set forward their stall and people have endorsed it. And I believe, and firmly believe, that people will continue to endorse it.
David Simpson, you've seen how Sinn Féin have responded to this in your area. You've seen the dissident support base there. How do you feel the position that Sinn Féin are in? Is it a difficult one, and are they managing it as best they can?
Well, I think it possibly will be difficult for them. I was doing a live interview with Newsline during the interviews that were being carried on this week, and I seen the reaction from some of the so-called dissident Republicans' youths towards Sinn Féin and obviously towards myself. I think it's difficult, and we listened to some of the words that were used by Martin McGuinness, and whilst they're welcome, we still need to go further than that. We still need to get the information coming so that these individuals, like those that have been arrested, can be brought to boot for this, can be put before the courts and get the proper sentencing that is required. And if they get life, it means life.
But of course, bringing the information forward, Sinn Féin have encouraged people to do that. But there is a level of fear, no doubt, when they see people out rioting, when they see people on the streets and they see the graffiti. What can be done to reassure people that they can actually bring forward this information?
Well, I think there is a genuine fear, whether it be on the Republican side of the fence or the Unionist side of the fence. But I think what Sinn Féin can do is go out and fully endorse and support the Chief Constable in whatever measures he needs to bring in. And I think if that signal was sent out to the general public that Sinn Féin fully endorsed the decisions, whatever decision the Chief Constable will make, I think that would send a positive signal out to the general public.
Do you not think they've done that?
They've done it, and I'm on record stating that I welcomed what Martin McGuinness has said and also welcomed what John O'Dowd said, referring to the killings as murder. But there was a silence for a period of time, and I don't think, and we trust it never happens again, but I think if we have a situation that it does happen again, I think they need to respond immediately, not 17 hours later.
First of all, John, how do you deal with the fear issue? I mean, we've seen in the weekend papers today people that speak for perhaps a different Republican point of view to Sinn Féin, saying that to collaborate, as they would say it, with the police does make people traitors.
Well, that's their opinion. And I have no difficulty with anybody from in the broader Republican family disagreeing with Sinn Féin or disagreeing with Sinn Féin's strategy. In fact, if there will always be a debate going on within Republicanism. But what we've seen in the recent days is the futility of violence, and futility of the conflict. And Oliver Hughes referred to it within his piece, and Oliver's family has suffered as a result of conflict. That road is a road to nowhere, in my opinion, and I think people need to draw back from that. But if people have a difference of a political opinion with Sinn Féin within their broader Republican family, so be it. I think that is good for Republicanism, that there's constant debate going on within it. But they have to present their opinion on shows like this in the public and to the people on the doorstep, like Sinn Féin has done. And we have went out there and we have sought endorsement, and we've got endorsement of our position.
But has Sinn Féin gone as far as it can go? Because we've seen criticism last week of operational decisions, shall we call it, of the Chief Constable. And this week perhaps we're seeing some on a certain side of unionism criticising the Chief Constable for not going far enough, perhaps for not bringing in the Army or the SAS. Do you think it's time now to say whatever the Chief Constable decides, operationally, we will let him get on with it?
Well, firstly, Sinn Féin hasn't took its stance this week to seek approval from David or the DUP or anyone else. We've done it because we believe it is the right thing to do, and we will continue to do it. In relation to bringing in the SAS and all these other armed groups, we have seen the result of conflict and the result of armed groups facing up to each other. That brings us nowhere. The British Army there was 30,000 of them on the streets at one stage. It didn't end the conflict. Politics ended the conflict. So how do we move things forward? How do we isolate those people in our society who wish to return to the dark old days? We make sure politics works.
But we've seen the political response. That's fine, but the security response has to go hand in hand too.
Well, the Chief Constable has told us that he has the resources in place within his own service to deal with what he faces. To bring the SAS or other British military units back onto the streets, either publicly on the streets or privately on the streets, is the road to nowhere. It's a disaster waiting to happen.
David Simpson, we saw Frankie Gallagher in that piece talking about the words of Martin McGuinness coming from the heart. Do you think loyalism is reassured? And what would you do as a unionist leader to tell them to stay quiet?
Well, I believe that the unionist community is reasonably reassured because of what Martin McGuinness has said. For a Republican like Martin McGuinness to come out and call his former colleagues traitors was a big step for him to do that. So we have to acknowledge that. Within loyalist paramilitaries, I mean, I would send out a message to them that there should be no reaction to what has happened. In this past week, Jim, I have made it my business to visit people within the constituency, speak to a lot of constituents. We've received a lot of phone calls. And whilst people are angry with what has happened in the past week from last Saturday to Monday night, the message has come in very clear. They do not want to go back to what we have had for 35 years. And that is the message. Whilst they're angry, whilst they're concerned, because it's a wake-up call. And people have got used to the fact that they haven't to look over their shoulder.
And what do they make of the joint appearances between Martin McGuinness, Peter Robinson, or indeed yourself and John O'Dowd?
Well, I have to say that, again, the message that I have received in speaking to people is that it was positive. I think they felt, and I think it was a big step to be standing alongside the First Minister and the Chief Constable. But it still requires more.
OK.